In the sun-drenched landscape of southern Egypt, near the modern city of Aswan, lies a place where time seems to have stood still. This is the ancient granite quarry, a vast, open-air workshop that once supplied the lifeblood of pharaonic ambition. Here, under a sky of brilliant, unrelenting blue, lies one of history's most poignant and powerful monuments. It's not a towering temple or a golden-masked king, but something far more raw, more human. It is the Unfinished Obelisk, a leviathan of stone, still slumbering in the bedrock from which it was being born. It is a giant frozen in mid-creation, a silent testament to a dream that was almost but not quite realized. Walking beside it, you feel incredibly small. The sheer scale is breathtaking, almost incomprehensible. It's longer than a blue whale, heavier than a fleet of jumbo jets. This colossal spear of granite was intended to be the largest single stone monument ever fashioned by human hands. You can run your hand along its rough-hewn surface, feeling the marks left by ancient tools. It lies at a slight angle, forever tethered to the earth, a sleeping giant that never woke up. The air hums with the ghosts of forgotten sounds, the relentless chipping of stone, the shouts of form, and the sheer brute effort of thousands of men working under the blistering Egyptian sun. The story it tells is one of immense power and heartbreaking failure. It speaks of a vision so grand, so audacious, that it pushed the very limits of what was thought possible. The ancient Egyptians were masters of stone, architects of eternity, but here in this scarred rock bed, we see that even they were not infallible. This was not meant to be its final resting place. This obelisk was destined for a grand temple, perhaps at Karnak, where it would have stood proud and tall, a finger pointing to the heavens, a conduit between the gods and humanity. Instead, it remains here, a magnificent failure, an eternal question mark carved into the very landscape of Egypt. As you stand here, on this ground that has been worked for millennia, you can't help but feel a profound connection to the past. The silence is heavy with unspoken stories. What happened here? What went so wrong? The obelisk doesn't give up its secrets easily. It forces you to imagine the scene, to picture the moment of discovery when the fatal flaw was found. It's a moment of collective despair, the shattering of a monumental dream. And yet, there is also a sense of immense respect for the ambition, the sheer nerve of those who dared to attempt such a feat. It is a story of human endeavor at its most epic. To understand the tragedy of the Unfinished Obelisk, we must first understand what these incredible monuments meant to the ancient Egyptians. Obelisks were not just decorative pillars, they were deeply spiritual objects brimming with symbolism and power. They were called tekenu in the ancient tongue, a word that evokes the idea of piercing the sky. They were sacred shafts of stone, often capped with a pyramid-shaped tip called a pyramidion, which was sometimes covered in gold or electrum to catch the first and last rays of the sun. They were, in essence, petrified sunbeams, earthly connections to the great sun god, Ra. These magnificent monoliths were always erected in pairs, standing like sentinels at the entrances to temples. They were a physical representation of balance and duality, a core concept in Egyptian thought. As the sun god Ra traveled across the sky in his solar bark, the obelisks would act as divine receivers, channeling his life-giving energy down into the sacred temple grounds below. Standing before them, an ancient worshipper would have felt the presence of the divine, a tangible link between their earthly world and the cosmic realm of the gods. The obelisks were declarations of royal power and piety, symbols of stability and permanence in a world that could often feel chaotic. The form of the obelisk itself was sacred. Its tall, tapering shaft represented the primeval mound, the Benben, which was said to have emerged from the chaotic waters of creation at the beginning of time. It was upon this mound that the sun god Atum-Ra first appeared. So, to raise an obelisk was to reenact the very moment of creation itself. It was a powerful ritual that reaffirmed the divine order of the cosmos and the pharaoh's role as the intermediary who maintained it. Each face of the obelisk was painstakingly inscribed with hieroglyphs, recording the pharaoh's names, titles, and great deeds, ensuring their legacy would endure for eternity. So when we look at an obelisk, we are looking at a complex tapestry of beliefs. It is a monument to the sun, a symbol of creation, a pillar of stability, and a testament to royal authority. The pharaohs commissioned them to honor the gods, to celebrate military victories, and to commemorate important anniversaries or jubilees. They were the ultimate status symbols, a very public and very permanent display of a ruler's connection to the divine. This is why the project in the Aswan quarry was so important. It was not just stone being carved, it was a piece of eternity being fashioned. The process of quarrying and carving an obelisk was an extraordinary feat of engineering, logistics, and sheer human grit. It began here, in the granite quarries of Aswan, where the finest, most durable stone was found. The work was brutal, unforgiving, and incredibly labor-intensive. Forget iron chisels and modern machinery. The ancient Egyptians achieved their miracles with far simpler tools. The primary tool was a ball of dolerite, a type of volcanic rock even hotter than granite. These pounders, weighing several kilograms each, were the key to freeing the obelisk from its mother rock. The work was methodical, repetitive, and utterly exhausting. Imagine thousands of workers, organized into teams, standing shoulder to shoulder along the intended outline of the obelisk. Day after day, week after week, they would relentlessly pound the granite, chipping away at it, bit by tiny bit. They would create a deep trench, wide enough for a person to work in, slowly isolating the colossal block of stone from the surrounding bedrock. The rhythmic sound of stone striking stone must have echoed through these hills for months, even years. It was a symphony of human effort, a testament to what can be achieved with patience, perseverance, and an almost unbelievable amount of hard physical labor. As the trenches deepened, the workers had to tackle the most difficult part of the process, detaching the underside of the obelisk. This was a task shrouded in some mystery. One theory suggests they tunneled underneath, painstakingly pounding away in cramped, dark conditions. Another, more plausible theory involves using a series of slots cut into the base. Wooden wedges would have been hammered into these slots and then soaked with water. As the wood expanded with immense force, it would, in theory, crack the granite along the desired line, freeing the monolith from the quarry floor. It was a moment of high tension and great risk. This was not slave labor, as is often popularly imagined. These were skilled craftsmen, quarrymen, and laborers. They were organized, well-fed, and housed in nearby villages. They were part of a massive state-sponsored project, a national effort that mobilized a significant portion of the workforce. Surviving records show that these workers were respected for their skills, yet the conditions were undeniably harsh. The relentless sun, the abrasive dust, the ever-present danger of accidents. It was a life of toil. Their sweat and effort are literally embedded in the stone we see today, a silent tribute to their incredible endurance. The unfinished obelisk is special, not just because it is unfinished, but because of what it was intended to be. Had it been completed, it would have been the single largest piece of stone ever quarried and shaped by human hands in the ancient world. It measures nearly 42 meters in length, that's as tall as a 12-story building. Its estimated weight is a staggering 1,200 tons, the equivalent of around 200 adult African elephants. This was a project that dwarfed all previous obelisks. It was a statement of unparalleled ambition, an attempt to create something that would be talked about for millennia. Its sheer size makes it an invaluable archaeological treasure. Because it was abandoned in situ, it provides us with a unique life-size blueprint of the quarrying process. It's like a textbook frozen in time. We can see the techniques the ancient Egyptians used, laid bare for all to study. The deep trenches surrounding it, pounded out with dolerite balls, are perfectly preserved. We can see the red ochre lines that the master craftsman painted on the stone to guide the workers, marking out the center line and the intended final shape. It is a priceless window into the minds and methods of ancient engineers. But it is the flaw, the reason for its abandonment, that makes its story so compelling. As the workers were painstakingly detaching it from the bedrock, a huge crack appeared in the granite. You can still see it today, a fatal fissure running through the upper portion of the stone. Perhaps it was an internal weakness in the rock, invisible from the surface. Perhaps it was a mistake made during the quarrying process, a stray blow that sent a shockwave through the monolith. Whatever the cause, the discovery must have been devastating. After months, or even years, of back-breaking labor, the project was ruined. The evidence shows that the ancient Egyptians did not give up easily. They made an attempt to salvage the project by redrawing the plans for a smaller obelisk, hoping to carve it from the undamaged portion of the larger block. But it seems another crack appeared, and with that, the dream finally died. The obelisk was abandoned, left to lie where it was, a permanent scar on the landscape and a monument to a shattered ambition. It is this combination of colossal scale and catastrophic failure that makes it one of the most fascinating ancient sites in the world. So, who would have dared to commission such a monumentally ambitious project? While there is no definitive inscription on the obelisk itself, most Egyptologists believe it was ordered by one of the most remarkable rulers in Egyptian history, the female pharaoh Hatshepsut. She reigned during the 18th dynasty, a golden age of wealth and power for Egypt. Hatshepsut was a prolific builder, and her reign is marked by some of the most elegant and impressive architectural achievements of the New Kingdom. She had the ambition, the resources, and the desire to leave an indelible mark on her kingdom. Hatshepsut's story is extraordinary. She was the daughter of one pharaoh and the wife of another. When her husband died, she initially ruled as regent for her young stepson, Thutmose III. But Hatshepsut was not content to remain in the shadows. In a bold and unprecedented move, she declared herself pharaoh, adopting all the royal titles and regalia, even being depicted in statues and reliefs with a male body and a false pharaonic beard. To legitimize her rule, she embarked on a massive building program, constructing magnificent temples and erecting numerous obelisks, all designed to broadcast her power and piety. The Unfinished Obelisk fits perfectly with her known ambitions. At the Great Temple of Karnak in Thebes, she had already erected a pair of beautiful red granite obelisks, one of which still stands today as the tallest in Egypt. These were marvels of engineering in their own right. But the Unfinished Obelisk was on another level entirely. It was a third larger than any she had previously commissioned. It seems likely that she intended this colossus to be her masterpiece, the crowning achievement of her reign, a monument so vast that no future pharaoh could ever hope to surpass it. Imagine the scene. Hatshepsut, the powerful queen pharaoh determined to secure her legacy, gives the order for the largest obelisk the world has ever seen. She wants to place it at Karnak, a testament to her devotion to the god Amun-Ra, and a permanent symbol of her glorious reign. The project would have been a massive undertaking, a focus of national pride. Its successful completion and erection would have been the ultimate demonstration of her authority and her command over the natural world. The failure of the project, therefore, would have been a significant blow, not just practically, but also symbolically. Quarrying the obelisk was only half the battle. The next great challenge, and one of the enduring mysteries of ancient engineering, was how the Egyptians planned to move this 1,200-ton behemoth from the quarry to the Nile, and then transport it hundreds of kilometers downriver to its final destination. This was a logistical puzzle of epic proportions. The quarry is over a kilometer from the riverbank, and there were no wheels, no cranes, and no engines in ancient Egypt. The task would have required immense ingenuity and a colossal amount of organized manpower. The most likely method involved dragging the obelisk on a massive wooden sledge. First, a causeway or slipway would have been built from the quarry down to a specially constructed canal leading to the Nile. This ramp would have been paved with mud bricks and lubricated with water or silt to reduce friction. The obelisk, carefully cushioned on the sledge, would then have been pulled by thousands of men, hauling on thick ropes made from palm fiber. It would have been a slow, painstaking, and incredibly dangerous process, coordinated by foremen chanting commands to ensure the teams pulled in unison. Once at the river's edge, the obelisk had to be loaded onto a barge. This was perhaps the most perilous part of the entire operation. The barge itself would have been a purpose-built vessel of enormous size, likely constructed from several boats lashed together and reinforced with massive timbers. The loading process probably involved positioning the barge in a flooded basin, then carefully sliding the obelisk from the causeway onto the deck of the vessel. The immense weight would have had to be perfectly distributed to prevent the barge from capsizing. It was a high-stakes maneuver where a single mistake could have been catastrophic. The journey down the Nile would have been a majestic spectacle. Propelled by the river's current and guided by smaller tugboats, the great barge would have made its slow progress northwards towards Thebes. Upon arrival, the whole process would have to be reversed. The obelisk would be unloaded and then dragged to the temple site. The final challenge was to raise it into a vertical position. This was likely achieved using a combination of ropes, levers, and a massive earthen ramp, slowly tilting the monolith until it slid into its prepared base. The successful erection of an obelisk was a moment of national celebration, a triumph of human ingenuity over the raw power of nature. The Unfinished Obelisk is more than just an archaeological curiosity. It is a powerful symbol of the tension between human ambition and human limitation. It represents the moment when even the most powerful and technologically advanced civilization of its time was forced to admit defeat. The Egyptians believed their pharaohs were living gods, capable of commanding nature and shaping reality through sheer force of will. This monument was intended to be the ultimate expression of that belief. Its failure serves as a humbling reminder that even the grandest of plans can be undone by something as simple as a flaw in the stone. There is a profound humanity in this failure. We often look at the pyramids, the temples, and the towering statues of ancient Egypt and see a civilization of gods, perfect and infallible. But here in the Aswan quarry, we see the human side. We can feel the frustration and disappointment of the master craftsmen who first discovered the crack. We can imagine the difficult conversation when the news had to be delivered to the pharaoh. It is a story not of divine perfection, but of human striving and, ultimately, of human frailty. It shows us that for every magnificent success like the Great Pyramid, there were likely many ambitious projects that ended in failure. The monument's unfinished state speaks volumes about the Egyptian psyche. They did not try to hide their failure. They did not smash the obelisk to pieces or attempt to bury it. They simply abandoned it, leaving it for all to see. In doing so, they left behind a more powerful lesson than a completed monument ever could. It teaches us about the nature of ambition itself. It pushes us to ask questions about our own grand plans. When is it right to push forward against all odds? And when is it wise to accept that a dream is broken and it is time to let go? This great stone lies as a testament to the idea that some things are beyond our control. Despite all their knowledge, skill, and manpower, the ancient Egyptians were ultimately at the mercy of the material they worked with. The granite had the final say. The crack in the dream is a crack in the myth of absolute power. It reminds us that every great civilization, no matter how powerful, faces setbacks and disappointments. It is a monument not to victory, but to the noble and often heartbreaking process of trying. Today, thousands of years after it was abandoned, the Unfinished Obelisk continues to captivate and inspire all who visit it. It is no longer just a failed project, it has become a destination in its own right, a place of pilgrimage for those fascinated by the past. It speaks to us across the centuries, not as a symbol of failure, but as a powerful testament to the audacity of the human spirit. It asks us to marvel not at what was lost, but at what was attempted. The vision, the ambition, and the sheer scale of the undertaking are what truly resonate with us today. The obelisk has found a new purpose. It connects with a universal human experience, the unfinished project, the unrealized dream. We all have our own unfinished obelisks in our lives. The novel we started but never finished, the ambition we had to abandon, the plan that went awry. The monument gives us a strange sense of comfort. It tells us that it is okay to fail, that there is dignity in the attempt, and that even our failures can leave behind something beautiful and meaningful. Its story is a reminder that the journey is often as important as the destination. For engineers, architects, and historians, the obelisk remains an invaluable source of knowledge, a life-sized lesson in ancient technology. It continues to fuel debates and inspire research into how the ancient Egyptians achieved their architectural marvels. It challenges our modern assumptions about what is possible with simple tools and incredible human coordination. It is a puzzle that we are still trying to solve, a mystery that keeps the world of the pharaohs alive and immediate. It forces us to look at the past with a renewed sense of wonder and respect for the ingenuity of our ancestors. Ultimately, the Unfinished Obelisk is a story of transformation. A project that was a catastrophic failure in its own time has become a resounding success in ours. It has succeeded in a way that Hatshepsut could never have imagined. It has achieved a different kind of immortality. It does not stand tall in a temple pointing to the sun god. Instead, it lies in its quarry, pointing directly into our own hearts and minds, inspiring us to dream big, to dare greatly, and to find beauty and meaning not just in our triumphs but in our noble, magnificent failures as well.